Pecking Order Tuesday here on Mackie and Judd. And Judd, you have, now I believe this is a clutch Minnesota Wild North Stars playoff performers list. Is that what we're getting from you here today?
Yeah, it's, yes, clutch. It's a list that I will admit is very much all over the map as far as the statistics go.
You're
and
workshopping
as, as what I consider clutch, because what I've tried to do is paint a picture of guys who were clutch over the long term, but also clutch in the short term, and scored. I didn't want to leave off some of. I don't have all of the most identifiable OTGWGs here for the Stars or Wild. So like this is workshopping is very fair. It's very much a fluid list. I think it's a fair list, and to be clear, just to start with, it's skaters only. So I didn't involve goaltenders. I try not to involve goaltenders.
Wow.
Okay.
First of all, there's a case to be made that there haven't been a ton of clutch goaltenders in the playoffs here. Now, John Casey certainly was in the Stanley Cup run. Molash and Beaupre were in the 81 Cup run. But I felt that got a bit confusing. So I just stuck to skaters, okay?
Okay. I feel like there's some snubbing happening with goalies here, but that's okay.
I threw their names
we
out.
should be able to move.
I threw
move
their
past
names out. I threw their names out, but this is a clutch list of skaters. All right, first of all, I'm going to start off with some wild snubs, okay? But I feel that they're fair. I feel that they're completely fair. I'm going to go through a list, gentlemen. All 10 guys on this list, Wild or North Stars, either made the conference finals or Stanley Cup finals except for one name, all right? So with that being said, I am leaving off the two top point getters in Wild playoff history.
Okay.
Zach Parisi and Mikko Koivu are 1-2.
To the surprise of no one.
Between them, they had 3 game-winning goals in the playoffs. Mikko had an OT goal. But you know what they were? They're identified with, in my opinion, playoff failures. Hey, this is finally the team. Second round was good. They never got to a conference finals. They got ousted in the first round all the time. Nothing clutch about that. Nothing clutch whatsoever.
Yeah, I
So
think like the
left them off.
totality of their careers. I think you're probably right. Those guys never got to a conference finals, let alone a Stanley Cup finals.
Yep.
Tough to call them clutch. Yeah.
Very tough. Very tough. So here is the top 10 clutch. I will start at 10. Number 10. This guy did not have great playoff stats, but he had a goal. And again, I'm trying to celebrate the guys that had huge goals as well. Number 10 on my list, Game 6, OT GWG 2003 against the Avalanche at the X, Richard Park. Incredibly clutch goal. If you look at his stats, the playoff stats, they're not great. Certainly not a great player. But as far as that playoff run went, yes, there was one goal in particular that certainly trumps that one. But that is 10 on my list, Richard Park.
Yeah. Well, Hockey Whisper floated that one in pre-production, just so everyone knows.
Yeah,
okay? Didn't want Judd to forget one of the great clutch goals in the history of Minnesota hockey.
And Dex, all due respect, Cliff Ronning does not make this list. Cliff Ronning did not have an OT GWG. He did not have a GWG in the 2003 playoff run. He had decent stats. That's it. He didn't make the list.
Are we
1 year
snubbing
mercenary?
Dwayne?
Yeah, 1 year mercenary, but if he had scored in OT of a playoff game in 03, he probably makes the list. Sorry,
Are we
Phil.
snubbing Dwayne Rollison here? All right, Rolly the goalie.
I told you I'm
Rolly
leaving
the goalie.
goalies off.
I just feel like maybe you're
Mm-hmm.
giving too much credit to the Jacques Lemaire defensive system, but and then again, if I remember
Manny
actually,
Fernandez played a ton too.
yeah, did he get yanked in that Duck series for Manny?
I'm probably snubbing. The worst snub is probably 91 North Stars goaltender John Casey. That's probably the worst snub. Case, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I feel really bad about it. Number 9 on my list. A guy who, again, in the 2003 Wild playoff run, he was absolutely fantastic. In fact, this guy scored 5 goals, like Kaprizov has done. 5 goals in the second round series against the Canucks. He played in 23 playoff games, had 7 goals, 14 points, 2 game-winning goals. I give you Wes Walls. And And in round one, he completely shut down, or helped, I shouldn't say completely. He played a big role in helping to shut down Peter Forsberg, at the time a star, with the Avs. Wes Walls is number 9.
Okay.
My first favorite Wild player.
Oh, God, he was good. Like, he
Young
was just
Declan loved him from West Walls.
could win some face-offs, could cause havoc, could score a big goal. Number
Great skater.
8. Yes. In fact, he would come out after games were done, after the crowd had left, and work on his skating and test his equipment out. It was the craziest thing. He would literally be out there in like sweatpants after a game skating. Number 8.
Dedication.
Number 8 on my list is a guy who really goes back to the heart of the Whisperer. This is the only guy on the list who does not make a conference finals, but the Whisperer was born because of this. OTGWG. That would be Nino Niederreiter. Game 7, Colorado was that 2014, I believe?
Yeah.
Nino is number 8 on my list. That's just a bow to the Whisperer's greatness.
Yeah, this is probably more of a commentary on just the lack of great Minnesota North Stars and Wild moments, because they haven't won a Stanley Cup, but it is one of the more iconic goals in Wild history for sure. Right?
Yeah.
Coming across.
Great.
And the Whisperer was born. Like, without that goal by him.
Nino
in particular,
Niederreiter is the father of the Hockey Whisperer.
That's exactly right.
Who is your daddy? What does he do?
Without
Nino
him, it's all
Niederreiter,
over.
he scores OTGWGs. Double OTGWGs.
All right, now we're about to go on a run of 3 consecutive North Star players. Number 7, a guy who predates you both, and you're both probably going to say, who is that? But this is the guy that scored the game-winning goal to eliminate the Montreal Canadiens, who had won 4 consecutive Stanley Cups in 1980. And this was sort of the launching pad to the Stanley Cup run the next year. Al McAdam. He had, in his career here, 63 playoff games, 20 goals, 44 points, 3 game-winning goals, 1 in OT. That's pretty doggone good.
And so this, in the moment, that's one of the biggest series wins in franchise history, right? Because
Absolutely.
you knock off essentially a dynasty before my time, before Declan's time, but yeah.
So
That's when hockey was hockey. That's when hockey players were real men too. Back in the early '80s.
Just stop with it.
That's
Just
what I
stop.
feel like.
Just stop with it.
Everybody had
Al could
a
fight.
43% of their teeth.
Al could fight too. God, could he fight? Old guy and like the nicest guy. But if you pissed Al McAdam off, I think I saw him beat people up. It was fantastic.
See, that was the great part about guys back in the day. See, like, there's not really any enforcers now, but even like the latest iteration of enforcers, they really weren't skilled enough to score goals. They were just out there as goons. Back in the 70s and 80s, you had guys that would score 80 to 100 points in a season, and they would drop the gloves and kick someone's ass every other night.
And Al didn't want to fight, but if you challenged him, watch out. He's number 7. Number 6 gets into a guy who is actually near the top of the North Stars all-time playoff list. And the difference between a guy like this and Parisi and Koivu is this guy made a couple of Stanley Cup finals. That's important. He didn't disappoint. He didn't choke. I won't go on. I'm not being nice. Number 6 on my list, Neil Broughton.
Yes.
104 playoff games, 26 goals, 75 playoff points, 2 of the game-winning variety. Neil Broughton also joined the Stars in time off the Olympic team, actually, for the run to the Stanley Cup Finals against the Islanders, and then was also on the team in '91. Neil Broughton is number 6 on my list.
I like it. Yeah, now we're talking. This is sweet spot North Stars. It is a freaking shame that the North Stars didn't bring a cup to the state of hockey. Did we call it? We didn't call it the state of hockey though when the North Stars were here. That was
a Wild creation.
Okay.
It's not our.
And it wasn't organic, right? It was very much born in a marketing lab, and now we just lap it up. Okay.
Yes. Yes, it's alive. The state of hockey is alive. That's exactly why.
It is genius. It is genius.
Oh, it's absolutely. But yes, it's a completely like fraudulent, non-organic thing. Number 5, we are now into the top 5. So Broughton was 6. I mean, that's debatable too. Broughton could be certainly in the top 5. Number 5 is a guy who led the North Stars franchise in playoff points. He played in 81 games. He scored 34 goals, 83 points, 3 game-winning goals, 18 power play goals, Brian Bellows. Brian Bellows.
Not to be mistaken with Brian Fellows.
And no, he is
Bell.
not meant to
I'm
be
Brian
mistaken.
Fellows.
He is not to be mistaken. Brian Bellows, number 5. Also, as I recall, had a very good playoff run in 91 when they shocked everybody and went to the finals against Pittsburgh. So Bellows, again, a lot of points, but also a Stanley Cup run. The Koivu and Parisi years would be different if there had been an actual Stanley Cup run. But
Bellows was a high draft pick too, wasn't he?
Yes, he was seen as a superstar, and I believe he was taken second overall in 82. Was it, Phil? Are you staring at that right now?
No, I'm on a different. I'm looking at I'm on a
Yacht
wormhole
Rock.
right now on Hockey
Yeah.
Reference. Right? Yeah, I'm actually looking at Michael McDonald's latest album on Spotify right now. No, I'm looking at the 1979, 1980 North Stars and just looking at their roster and some of the different games and stuff.
The Pims are good.
The Pims.
Pims.
Judd loves to pick out Pims.
Pims are fantastic. So Bellows was taken by Louis in a draft where Boston had the first pick, and Louis actually worked out a trade with Harry Sinden, the GM of the Bruins at the time, where he would take a defenseman by the name of Gord Kluzak, who was hurt all the time first, and Louis sent him a player or two, so they allowed Bellows to fall, and the North Stars took him. All right, so Brian Bellows at number 5. Number 4 on my list. It might be a bit low. Not because he put up great playoff stats, but because of the goal. I debated this one. I actually started him off at 2, but I couldn't pull the trigger on it. Number 4, the man who scored the OTGWG in Colorado in Game 7. Knocked the puck past Patrick Waugh's career, thus really ending the career of a Hall of Fame goaltender. The coach of the Florida Panthers, Andrew Brunette.
Yeah.
Bruno.
I mean, the goal is iconic. The goal, it dare I say this, the Brunette Game 7 OT goal is the most iconic goal scored by a Minnesota National Hockey League team.
Yeah, it probably is.
Like, I don't see any North Stars goals that are that iconic as far as, like, it feels like we see that a lot still, and it's 2022.
Yeah.
And comparing it to like the Nino situation, where obviously 2 Game 7s against the same team, right? Like that Avs team got hot that year, and it's like it's kind of started their mini run, then they popped down. But like the 2003 Avalanche, I mean, that was the end of that core that won a cup 2 years prior with Hall of Famers up and down the lineup. Like it's way more iconic. Way more.
God, Rob Blake, Forsberg, Sakic,
Foot.
Waugh.
Foot.
Adam Foote.
Oh, I love Foot.
Adam Foote, man.
His kid
Don't
plays
forget
for
Adam
Tampa
Foote.
now.
Yeah.
Foot was, yeah. But I mean, yes, that club was iconic. Is a perfect word
Foot.
for it. What? Adam Foot?
He's a good player. He's a good player.
great-
I like
it's a
him.
great
Good
hockey
player. What's wrong with Adam Foot?
Yeah.
Nothing.
good
It's a
player.
great jersey. Just says foot on the back
Foot.
of your jersey with an E, right? There's a foot
Yes.
with an E.
There was.
pretty sure.
Yeah. There you go. Hockey Whisperer. There you go.
That's right.
Number 3. We are to the top 3. Drum roll, please. Third on my list. First overall pick, if I'm not mistaken, in the 1978 draft.
Wow.
Bobby Smith. 77 playoff games, 26 goals in the playoffs as a North Star. 76 points, okay? He was on the 81 Stanley Cup team as a young star, came back at the end of his career, and played on the 91 team. So on both North Star Cup teams, although he spent time in Montreal in between, he had one OTG WG in Game 2 of a series against Toronto. But more impressively, you guys, he had 7 game-winning goals. So he had 26 goals as a North Star in the playoffs, 7 game-winning goals.
Clutch.
That
Very
puts him
clutch.
3.
What qualifies as a GWG now? Is it just a goal in the third period that gives your team the permanent lead?
I don't think so. No, I believe a game-winning goal, like, for example, if you score to go up 1-0 in the first period,
It's
that
a
does
GWG?
count as a GWG.
It's a
And you,
G-dub?
and you held the lead.
So is there,
obviously, for the
is there a
duration of the game.
GWG in every game then?
Yes, technically.
Okay.
All right, Bobby Smith is number 3. Number 2, a man who came up late in the 81 season and changed the course of history for that North Star team. A man who was so popular that he had inflatable dinosaurs being sold in his name, and I still got one, although the air pops out now. But anyway, Dino Cicerelli, 62
Dino.
playoff games,
Dino Cicerelli,
28
dude.
goals, 51 points, 1 OT GWG, and again, just like Bobby Smith, 7 game winning goals. But Cicerelli, and if you go back and look, I believe he established the rookie record at that time for points in a playoff series as the North Stars beat the Bruins. They beat the Sabres. They beat the Flames before succumbing to the Islanders in the Stanley Cup Finals. Dino Cicerelli was incredibly clutch.
And then he
Number 2.
became a sort of a grinder front of the net player for those great Red Wings teams in the 90s too.
Tremendous scorer.
Old
Tremendous
Macadac
scoring
used to
touch.
rock some NHL 94, 95
There
for
he is.
Super Nintendo with Dino Cicerelli and Steve Yzerman.
And that man would stand in front, and he was not a big guy, and take a beating. And this is back in the days when you could be cross-checked. Goalies would whack you. And Dino would stand there. And more importantly, he would score goals. Dino Cicerelli's number 2.
Love it. All right. And number 1, the most clutch performer in Wild or North Stars playoff history.
This one will not surprise any North Star fans.
The fans. Are the fans number
This
1?
one will not surprise the fans. No.
It's
no.
the
In
only
fact,
retired jersey.
I'm
Well-
about to raise a number to you that's number 1, Mackie, but I won't do it because it's a family show. This man became known as Mr. April. This man is a tremendous fan to this day, I believe, of Garage Logic. This man's name is Steve Payne, and let me explain why. Steve Payne, who was a good player, but became in the playoffs a great player. 71 playoff games, 35 goals. That leads the franchise. 70 points, 9 GWGs, 3 in OT. He scored in the run to the Stanley Cup Finals. He scored the overtime winner against the Boston Bruins in Game 1 in Boston, which was the first time since the inception of the North Stars in 1967 that they had won a game in Boston Garden, okay? In 81 then, in the next round against Buffalo, he scored the OT goal to win it in Game 1 against the Sabres. And then, most memorably, and I would say that this is, that next to Brunette's goal, this is the goal that you probably see the most as far as defining goals in overtime games between the two franchises. 1984, playing the Blues in the division final to go to the Western Conference Finals. Game 7, Steve Payne scored to beat the Blues and to advance the North Stars. Mr. April, Steve Payne, is number 1 on my list.
Love it. There it is. Those are the most clutch performers in
Wow.
Wild and North Stars playoff history.
Bravo.
I'm
No
wondering.
goalies.
So Steve Payne, Dino Cicerelli, Bobby Smith, your top 3. Brunette, Bellows, Broughton through 4, 5, and 6.
Yep.
Al McAdam, Nino Niederreiter, Wes Walls, Richard Park, rounding
Yep.
out the pecking order.
That is
Amazing.
it.
What's it going to take for 5 goals so far in this series, Kaprizov, to crack this list?
Well, I got to see how far the team goes. And look, he looks like he's learned, and he's certainly been very, very good. A year ago, not so good. I need to see more body of work.
Okay, so for tonight, over or under 0.5 goals for Kaprizov?
Oh.
I'm going over,
It's got to be over, right? It's gonna see
but that
some-
might be bad luck. But I'm going over tonight. Dex?
I hit the over on that on Sunday in Game 4, and Underdog Fantasy was going to give me a nice little payout there until I took the under on the Tarasenko shots. I paired them and got burned.
That's
burned.
always tough in those
pick'ems, man.
Those pick'em games, man.
Pick- Pick'ems.
Not done well so far.
Good
but
sweat,
I'm going to be
though.
back tonight.
Good
I'll
sweat.
be back tonight sweating it out.
It is the best and easiest way to get a sweat on games. UnderdogFantasy.com and the Underdog Fantasy app. So easy, Judd can use it. You know, it lets you draft. You can either draft a fantasy team in just minutes for games tonight or for the season if you want to play season-long leagues, so to speak. And then there's the pick'em games, sort of the over-unders that we're talking about here. Kaprizov, 0.5 assists, 0.5 goals are the marks for tonight. And you can check them out. Promo code SCORE, SKOR, and Underdog Fantasy will double your first deposit up to $100 in bonus cash. So it's just it's a blast. Get a sweat on. We'll talk more about the football leagues too as the season gets closer. But put your money where your mouth is.
I'll be doing that tonight.
Yeah.
Let's do it up, man.
I'll definitely be doing that tonight.
Also, a shout out to our friends at Aquaside, Declan, for helping support the Mackey and Judd and Score North brands.
That's right. If you own a lake home or you have a pond on your property, go call my friends at Aquaside. They've been helping people maintain nice lake shores for over 60 years. They have a complete line of lake and pond control products that will take care of anything from weeds to algae. They are local too. They're in White Bear Lake. Go stop in and say hello. And they're registered with the EPA and the DNR. Aquaside.com. It's finally warm enough to get that dock in. I know people are getting the docks in on the water here. Finally summer, 90 degrees on Thursday. Summer is here. We'll make sure also that lake shore is nice and clear when you're getting your toes in the water. Aquaside and aquaside.com.
Nice. Real quick, I know that people might be listening to this after the game is over if you're listening, after Game 5, but what does your gut say about the rest of the series here? Tied 2-2. 2 home games in the final 3. The Whisperer feels like it's a 7-game series win for the Wild. He's just going to throw that out there.
I would tend to agree with that, actually. I think they're going to win. I think the Wild wins Game 5. Game 6 is tough. The Blues will be desperate. They'll play a far smarter game than they certainly did in Game 3. I think it's 7. And then once you get to 7, I don't know.
Anything can happen.
Once we get there, I feel like I need to see how things are going. Like two playoff games, Dex, is a long time.
Yeah.
Because a lot can transpire. For all we know, hopefully for the Wild's sake, you guys, Fiala gets hot. Like he's shooting enough where he could, if he scores a goal, I think he starts to break through. But yes, I think the Whisperer is right. I think we're getting to a Game 7. Dex?
6. Wild and 6. I think they win the night. They go to St. Louis and take care of biz.
4. Wow, you're jinxing it.
I said Wolves in 4. That was outlandish.
No, I know.
That,
But just say it's going to go
was me
7, and then if they win in
Kool-Aid.
6, we're all pleasantly surprised.
I said going into Game 3, who wins Game 3 wins this series. I still stick with that. The Wild won Game 3. They dropped Game 4. They'll win it in 6.
How does it make you guys feel that Colorado just made ridiculously quick work in the first round? They're just chilling.
Not real
Not
good.
surprised. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not happy about that. The Preds, though,
they swept the Preds.
So the Preds were without without Saros, who's their top goaltender. The Preds gave the Wild a lot of trouble, but I don't think that they were really that good of a team ultimately. And without your top goaltender, that's a big deal.
That was a big one.
I think if the Wild play the Avs, they're 1,000% not favored. But that being said, I would hope that they would have a few more answers to the test than the Predators did.
Mm-hmm. Colorado scored 21 goals in 4 games. Now, there's at least one empty netter. They scored 7 twice.
The power play is the problem, too. The power play, I believe, on Saturday was like 4 or 5.
Holy crap. They scored...
This is
they only had one. I think they only had one empty netter. So these are these are legit goals.
They dominated them.
And their power play is fantastic.
2 empty netters.
There are certain guys on that team that if you're going to get through a series, you have to at least come close to neutralizing. McKinnon is one of them for sure, and that's incredibly tough. I'm telling you guys, though, Cale Makar, oh my God, this kid is phenomenal. I mean, he is his ability to not just skate, but the ease with which he handles the puck is like frightening. It's fun to watch, but it's frightening. And I don't know what the answer to that one is necessarily.
We got to stay focused, one series at a time here. The Whisper just brings it up for advanced scouting purposes, okay? But
I scouted a lot.
Let's lock it in here. Okay, lock it in. Judd's Hockey Show, live on the Score North YouTube channel after every game. Find it tonight, though.
The funniest thing is and this makes no sense, but it's true. If you get to the conference finals in the West, if the Wild got there, that might be the easiest series, would beyond a shadow of a doubt that they would play.
I know. This is the hardest path of any team, I think, in either conference. The fact that you're starting off with a Blues team that has some championship DNA to it, still one of the better teams in the conference, and then you get Colorado, and then you're halfway. If you beat those 2 teams, you are halfway.
But you almost get like nuts. A little bit of a break in the sense that the team that you would play in the conference finals, it would be a good team, but it certainly wouldn't be the Avs.
Yeah.
And the Blues are tough, to your point. The playoff structure, there's a lot of debate about it, and rightfully so.
Yeah. All right, boys. Let's let's move on to Purple Daily here. You guys can find us over there. That's our other daily show and our other YouTube channel. Minnesota sports entertainment every day here on Mackey and Judd. Write that down, predictions and an accountability session tomorrow. Plus, like I said, Judd's hockey show, Vent Line recapping a Game 5 later tonight.